right, ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling B2B2C marketing. Ever get the feeling some brands are, like, everywhere?
It's true, they really are. And chances are it's because they've got this B2B2C thing down pat.
So, for anyone who hasn't encountered this term before, what are we even talking about when we say B2B2C?
Well, you know how we're used to either businesses selling directly to other businesses, that's your classic B2B, or straight to us, the consumers, which is B2C.
Right, makes sense.
This is kind of the best of both worlds, or at least that's the goal. Imagine a company like, say, Honda. They make the cars, obviously.
But they don't want to run every single dealership across the country, right?
Exactly. Too much. Way too much.
Yeah.
So that's where that first B2B layer comes in, partnering with dealerships. Those dealerships are then connecting Honda to us, the car buyers, the C at the end of B2B2C.
So Honda gets nationwide reach without the headache of managing all those dealerships themselves. Smart. But this isn't a new thing, is it? Feels like we've seen this before.
Oh, absolutely not new at all. Think parts distributors, software integrations, it's been around. What's interesting is how much it's evolved, especially with all the changes in e-commerce and how we do marketing online now. Way more complex than it used to be.
And way more subtle, too. Bet most people have encountered BDDDC without even realizing it. That little Intel Inside sticker you see on every other laptop.
Expert case. Intel makes the processors, but they're marketing directly to us, even though we're not the ones buying those processors directly. Brilliant, really. Not just selling a product, they're building that brand loyalty.
Leveraging the trust we already have in brands like Dell or HP, so it kind of trickles upwards.
Exactly. Like, I trust this laptop brand, and they trust Intel, so it's a powerful feedback loop.
See, this is what I love about this stuff. It's not just some theoretical marketing jargon. This impacts what we buy every day, the brands we trust, even what we end up paying.
100%. As consumers, we're part of this equation whether we realize it or not, which is why I think it's so fascinating to pull back the curtain a bit.
See the strategy at play.
Yeah.
And suddenly you understand why brands make the choices they do.
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as just, making a good product anymore.
Oh, not even close. That's just the first hurdle these days.
So then what? Let's say you are Intel, you've made the best processor. Now you got to convince Dell, HP, all those guys.
Exactly. And that's where that B2B side really kicks in. You have to talk their language, ROI, long-term partnerships, showing them the data, all that good stuff.
Okay, so you've won them over. But it doesn't stop there, does it?
Nope, because then you've got to get to the heart of it. I mean, Intel can't rely on Dell to tell their whole story for them, right?
Makes sense. They need us to be asking for Intel inside, not just any old processor.
Exactly. That's where that consumer-facing messaging has to be spot on. You've got to capture that I've got to have it feeling. Aspirations, emotions, all the good stuff data alone can't quite convey.
It's like they're playing two different roles at once.
Two very different roles, and they need to nail both of them. It's a balancing act, for sure. Like, think about a company like Fairy, right? Dish soap. Classic household staple.
Sure, Fairy. They need to get them with the supermarkets. That's the B2B part.
Yep. Got to get that shelf space. But then on the other hand, they've got to convince us, the shoppers, that Fairy is the best.
So it's profit margins and shelf placement for the supermarket conversations.
And then for us, it's all cuts through grease and gentle on your hands.
Completely different conversations, but it's all part of that same B2B2C strategy.
And that's what makes it so interesting, It's not just about selling to businesses anymore. It's about working with them to reach that end customer.
This is making me think about all those companies that make components for bigger brands. Like, what about the company that makes the actual speaker for your smartphone?
Perfect example. No one's going into a store demanding a phone with brand X speakers, but that company still needs to market themselves to, say, Apple or Samsung.
So how do they do that?
Could be a million different things. Maybe they highlight how energy efficient their speakers are. Phone manufacturers care a lot about battery life, right?
Oh, for sure. That's a huge selling point.
Or maybe they focus on superior sound quality. It all comes down to understanding what matters to both sides of that equation, the business and the end consumer.
It's fascinating when you start to think about all the layers involved.
Absolutely. And for anyone out there running a business, this model can be a game changer.
So what's the takeaway? Why should our listeners care about all this?
Well, instead of trying to do it all yourself, reach every single consumer on your own, spending a fortune on marketing, Why not leverage what already exists? Tap into established networks, benefit from that existing trust. Like that old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
And in the business world, I think it's safe to say we're all trying to go the distance.
Exactly. In today's world, strategic partnerships are everything.
It's like you need to find the right partner to make the whole thing work.
Totally. And the better you are as partners, the better it works for everybody.
I have to say, this whole deep dive has been really eye-opening. I never realized just how much B2B2C is going on. It's like I'm finally seeing the matrix or something.
Right. It's everywhere once you start noticing it, and it's going to get even more wild as technology keeps changing.
You mentioned earlier it's a trend worth watching. Why do you think that is?
Well, look at how the lines are blurring between, like, the real world and the internet, All that creates so many more possibilities for these partnerships.
So it's not even just one product anymore. It's like whole systems working together.
Exactly. Imagine like a company that makes those smart refrigerators.
Okay, yeah.
And they partner up with a grocery delivery service. Boom, whole other level.
Whoa, yeah. Or a fitness tracker and your health insurance, they could be working together.
See? Tons of potential there.
It does make you think. But all this is kind of overwhelming if you're not a marketing expert, right? How do we keep up?
Be curious. Seriously, look at the brands you're already using. See who they're partnered with. Think about why that partnership makes sense. You'll start to see it everywhere.
So it's like we're all B2B2C detectives now.
Exactly. Once you understand how this all works, you can make smarter choices, whether you're buying stuff or running a business.
I've definitely got a lot to think about. Feels like a whole new way of looking at things.
Glad to hear it. Knowledge is power, right? And now you've got that insider knowledge of how this whole B2B2C thing really works.
That's a great way to put it. Well, that's about all the time we have for this deep dive. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing, everyone.